You're listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
Hey everybody, it's Kyle from Unlocking Your Inner Strength, back for another episode. Thank you from the get-go for always tuning in to check this out. I got a lot of cool ideas coming your way. Hopefully you've been getting stuff from the show and from the website that can help you in life. That's the whole purpose of this, was for me to help guide people and inspire people to live their life to the fullest. So with that in mind, if there's ever anything you want me to cover, any of the episodes, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can shoot me an email at kyle@kylenewell.com. Real simple. For today, I wanted to go over 3 different categories that kind of mold me into the person that I am. So we're going to be covering a lot. There's lessons within all of these. So some of them are going to be obvious. Some of them I'll point out. Some you're just going to have to make the connection for yourself. The first category that I want to talk about are 3 of the things that I love in life. And there's obviously a lot more things I love in life than just these. But the first one, a growth mindset. Now, to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the book that Carol Dweck had on this topic. But I like the concept, and I like that she put a name to it. I've always believed that you can do whatever it is that you put your mind to, as far back as I can remember. And I've always believed that you can get better. That's why I'm such an avid learner and avid student. Because if you don't have a growth mindset, that means you have a stay put mindset or a regression mindset. So if you're not moving forward in life, you are going backwards. You're never just going to stay the same, because competition is coming up. They're surpassing you. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, it's going to atrophy and shrink. The same thing with your mindset. So I'm a huge fan of that. I actually got my growth mindset, went into overdrive once I was first exposed to Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, which I thought was an awesome book. I've mentioned it before. I read that at a really tough time in my life when I was coming off that stomach illness, getting ready for a bodybuilding show. And I remember from that point forward, there was nothing in the world that you could put in front of me that I didn't think I could do. So it's important to have a growth mindset. And a growth mindset is also always going to allow you to know that there's more to be done, that you can do more, and that you can strive to be better. So that's one of the first things I love. I'm attracted to people that have growth mindsets. Second thing I love is philosophy. Now, philosophy can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. This, was really took root when I was a kid. I was very, very fascinated in the meaning of life. What happens when you die? That type of stuff. Coincidences. Was there such a thing? Or was everything kind of planned out or connected? And when I hired Scott Abel to be my personal coach back in 2007, I believe it was, and I stuck with him for a few years, he was really into philosophy and, connecting the mind, body, and spirit. And that really vibed with me. So that's why I think I liked Scott so much, and I still, highly respect and like him to this day. But philosophy to me is something that you can take any subject and you can ask questions about it, and you could try to formulate new connections, connecting the dots, so to say. And I think it's very important that we all have a life philosophy for ourselves. And that's going to include a lot of definitions under that philosophy of what your life should look like. For example, for me, it's a really simple filter when it comes to success, and people want to give me their opinion or want input on something, or they want to try to control situations. My definition of success is living life on my own terms. So if it does not fit whatever the circumstance is, if it doesn't fit into that scope, that's part of my life's philosophy. It makes the decision very easy. I just move on, boom, because it didn't fit. So having a philosophy, and then I also love studying philosophy. I love studying obviously, you know how the brain works. I love studying different religions, and I love studying spirituality and just great thinkers and connecting the dots and making my own thing. So that's the way that goes. But same thing as the growth mindset. If you're into philosophy, I'm going to vibe with you for sure. Last thing that I really love, and this is appropriate being we're in Halloween season, is horror movies and horror characters. I'm obsessed with them. And that goes back to mind mapping with Hebb's Law. What gets fired together gets wired together. So you might be saying, Kyle, how did horror movies get wired into your brain? So let me explain. When I was 7 years old, it was Halloween night. We had finished trick-or-treating. We were at my aunt's house in Bombrook, New Jersey. And on the old television, the old big box television, she had like 7 channels or something like that. We had on, or I don't even know who put it on, A Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger. And I was scared out of my pants from that night, watching it and then moving forward. I thought Freddy was going to come get me. But that wired into my brain a nostalgic feeling. Those 80s horror movies. I love Halloween. I love the Halloween franchise, Friday the 13th franchise. I love reading about this stuff and how the characters were created and the deeper meanings behind them. So that's why this is probably my favorite time of the year. Halloween season has just about arrived or come and gone, depending on when you're listening to this. And it's something that I'm really into. And I know that it's really weird because a lot of people, I think they would rank horror movies at the bottom of their list of movie genres. But those are 3 things I love: growth mindset, philosophy, horror movies. 3 things that I really dislike. I won't say the word hate, but I really dislike that, turn me the wrong way. Narcissistic people. People that are narcissistic have big egos. And big egos are an impediment to growth. So that kind of goes hand in hand. You could see why that would be on my list. Narcissistic people do not have a growth mindset. It's all about them. It's all about them. How are they showing up in the world? Are they looking good? And usually it's, are they looking good just on the outside or appearance-wise or material-wise? No substance. So you may have been reading one of the articles. I've written a series of them. I'll actually have another one coming out very soon about Tool Boy. Tool Boy is a real character, for those of you that keep asking me. He's real. He's 100%. He lives in the flesh. But Tool Boy, one of the things that why he's a target of mine is because the narcissistic behavior. It just drives me insane when people are like that, when it's all about them. And maybe it's just the way my brain is wired as well. Like, I'm very much a deflector of attention. It's not my job as a coach to say me. That's insecurity, and insecurity is not attractive. I don't care. I'm not talking about sexual attraction. It could be that case as well, but I'm just talking about relationships in general. Somebody that's insecure, which narcissistic people are, is a huge no-no for me. Second thing that I greatly dislike is the drop-in, the dreaded drop-in. So if you listen to the Time Mastery episode, I talked about how the drop-in vampire, they're one of the worst kinds of time vampires because they show up unannounced. You didn't have any prediction that they were coming, throws you off. I cannot believe when people say they like and they encourage people to drop in. There's one buddy of mine, longtime member at Newell Strength. He will do a drop in a couple times a year, and it drives me nuts. It drives Devin nuts too, but I usually just leave. Or if I think the last time he showed up, I said, all right, we're going for a walk with me and the dogs, let's go. So it's I just think it's something rude to do, and it drives me nuts. If I think somebody might be dropping by, I shut the front door, lock it. I won't. If I don't know the person at the door, if the Hovies come by, I won't even. When I know they're there, I won't even open the door. But the drop-in is a huge time waster, and you know how I value my time, just as you should. It's the most precious thing on earth to me. So that's why I do not like the drop-in. Last thing that I greatly dislike is bureaucratic BS. So we're working with a school and we're running all their programs. And there's a lot of cool ideas I have that I want to bring forth to the community. Now, I've been trying to move some of the content I want to put out and workshops forward, but there seems to be a roadblock. And everything's got to be checked off by so-and-so, and I understand that, but it's not really that. It's when people are shooting down your ideas because they are a threat to their very existence. And you'll see that a lot in these bureaucratic establishments where nothing ever gets done. And that's why it doesn't get done, because people are not creative in those positions. They're just looking to be safe. They're looking to protect themselves so they don't look bad. And I have no tolerance for that. We're all here to strive to be better. And if you have a message to put out to people, don't be, or if you don't have a message, I should say, don't try to shut down the people that do, just because you think you're going to look like you don't know what you're doing. Because first of all, you don't know what you're doing if you were in that case. But bureaucratic policies, any establishment where you realize things are not getting done, you're better off leaving. As a matter of fact, I actually emailed the principal of the school the other day, and I said, look, I just got to express my frustration. I'm used to working with much more speed and efficiency than this. When I have an idea and I put it together, boom, it's ready to go, not 3 months later. So those are three pet peeves of mine: people that are narcissistic, the drop-in vampire, and bureaucratic BS. And they tie hand in hand with the first three that were the positives, or things that I really like: growth mindset, philosophy, or horror movies. In some way or another, I could tie all those things together and how they're the opposites in some way. But let's talk about three weird things about myself as well, because I think you can learn something from these. And I'll always share resources with you guys. But one of the things is, especially on my super high focus day, is I have a uniform that I wear. And that might sound ridiculous. Now, it's not the same, color scheme every single day or anything like that. But I have a couple go-to shirts, depending on the temperature. Right now, it's my blue flannel, which I love. There's a hat that I put on, which means to me it's go time, it's creative time, it's writing time. I usually do not wear boxer briefs when I'm trying to do high creative work. I don't like that feeling of being restricted around my waist with the elastic band like that. So I usually wear loose sweatpants. And the reason I have a uniform is it's one less thing to think about, right? So I'm saving a little bit of brain power. And it sets me up for one of those environments. Remember all the six types of environments to talk about. There's 6 of them, but a peak productivity environment, which would be like your work environment. Part of that is what you're wearing, okay? And if it makes you feel good and puts you into that state of mind. So your uniform or my uniform, the way Hebb's Law works, you're going to associate as soon as you put that uniform on with whatever it is you kind of wired together and welded together with it at the beginning. So for me now, it's high focus content work. I know when this uniform's on, boom, I go. So it sounds silly, but that's what the brain needs sometimes is routines like that, and to free up some brain space. Second weird thing about myself. So I keep a bank account for fun money, which means I could spend it on whatever I want. And I just put a little bit of money each week into that. And there's a lot of psychology behind that. I'm not going to go into that in this episode. That could be a whole, wealth attraction mindset type of episode. But when I do save up, let's say I save up $200, I don't spend my money on fun things as people would typically think. Usually for me, it's in subscription newsletters, some kind of book, something education-wise. But the big one that I'm fascinated with ever since I was building Newell Strength was the Dan Kennedy one, the No BS marketing newsletter, which was awesome. And he would really just drop bombs in there. And I give a lot of credit to the sustainability or the longevity, I should say, to of Newell Strength to Dan Kennedy, that was just an awesome newsletter. And then it led me into his books and all that type of stuff. But I spend my fun money on usually weird stuff like that. And I say weird stuff just because a lot of people probably have never gotten a subscription newsletter in the mail, but they're highly valuable if you find somebody that you connect with. And the last weird thing, and then I'll explain the mind map principle behind this, is everybody or everything, usually in my world, gets a nickname. I don't know why exactly, when this started. I mean, I could take a guess. I know in high school, no, actually in middle school, we were already giving out nicknames. When I say we, I mean the neighborhood boys or me and my brothers. So my philosophy or theory behind nicknames, first of all, it connects the person to something else in your mind. And there's a reason you give them that nickname or whatnot. But giving people a nickname, and it's not something I do consciously or intentionally, it builds that social connection that's so important to that mid part of the brain, the mammalian part of the brain. Okay, so when they have a nickname, boom, they bond with you more. They're more part of the group. So it might. I'm not even just talking for myself about the gym. I'm talking about just social groups, friends. So that's something that's a little quirk of mine. And even Devin, my wife, she has a nickname, Susie Homemaker. Braxton is Munchie, and then he's got like 100 nicknames off of Munchie. Even our dogs have nicknames. So usually it's anything that connects with me or that's close to me in my life will get a nickname. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, and that's fine because it probably is, but I'll give you some examples here before we wrap up this show. So two of my best friends, you have the King, you have Jabba Juice, okay? So those are two nicknames. One of my brothers, my older brother Brooks, we call Budgie. And the story behind that was when we were working for my grandfather, who was an old Italian mason. This Polish guy kept coming over one day. This was when we were in high school, early high school. And he kept pointing at my brother and just saying, Budgie, Budgie, Budgie. And at that age, I thought it was hilarious. I was like in 9th grade. And then it just became Budgie. And that's what everybody calls him now. One of my other brothers, Shane, we call him Sugar Shane, named after the boxer Sugar Shane Mosley. My youngest brother, Reese, we call Presh, short for Precious, because my grandmother, Chrissy, used to call him Precious Little Baby. He was the youngest one, and we always thought that was funny, so we'd start calling him Precious, and that's shortened to Presh. So those are some of the nicknames. We got Turkey Head at the gym. I mean, there's so many I could just probably blow your mind with the Wolverine, Quadzilla, Popzilla, but they all hold a special place in my heart. And if you've never given anybody a nickname, give it a shot sometime. It makes things a little more interesting and fun. So to wrap up, 3 things that I strongly like or love are people with a growth mindset. I love the idea of a growth mindset. I love philosophy, all types of philosophy. Make sure you develop a life philosophy for yourself. But I love talking philosophy and the meaning of certain things. And I love horror movies and horror characters. That was wired into my brain from the time I was 7 years old. So that's a really cool thing for me. Always brings back great memories. You may have read in some of the articles that almost every time when I'm in my uniform doing high productivity work, the Halloween song is on in the background on an endless loop. And that just, boom, puts me right into that state. And when I say state, it's like a feel-good state, and that's going to help me do better work, okay? 3 things I do not like. Narcissistic people, a.k.a. tool boy. No time for that. Egos get in the way of progress. The drop-in. The drop-in vampire is not that they're a bad person, but they don't realize the damage they're doing and having on the impact of your day. And then bureaucratic BS. Anytime you're in an establishment where things cannot get done quickly, there's going to be problems. So we've run into that problem lately, but a lot of techniques I can use for dealing with that, which maybe I'll share next time if we see if some of these issues are resolved. I'll let you know how I did that. But those are 3 things I really don't like. 3 weird things. I wear a uniform to work. When I'm not saying to go to work. I'm talking about when I'm doing work at home and it's just me or me and Martina or me and Martina and Dax. I'm going to be in a uniform, my peak productivity uniform. I spend my fun money on things like subscription newsletters. That always gives me a little buzz when I read a newsletter and somebody else's work, and I get ideas from it. So I don't really spend my fun money on things like going to the club or the bar or the latest video game, although there's nothing wrong with that. And the last one is I'm big into nicknames. Love nicknames. I think they're a real cool thing. I think they're a part of pop culture. And they just come to me a lot of times. Boom, they pop in because I connected something to something, the way the person looked or acted. And that's probably what they'll be stuck with forever now, because once I give somebody a nickname, it's very, very difficult for me to go back and call them, hey, Jenny. But if that was their first name, Jenny, it goes by their nickname. So that kind of is something that's always present once I give it out. To wrap up, write those things down. Definitely keep spreading the word about the show. I really appreciate all the support. It means the world to me. I hope you're finding this stuff useful. And, I hope that you take time to leave a review if you have not, even if it's a negative review, because that's going to help me make the show better. But if you could, you just go into iTunes, click on review, rate it, then you're done. So thanks again for listening to this episode. We'll be back next week for another episode. And remember, if you have any topics you want me to cover, definitely reach out and let me know what those topics are. You can send those to Kyle at kylenewell.com. Peace. Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.